when you were in high school?
Yeah.
And then what kind of changed when you were just kind of fading, or you said studies? And
it was, I started fading a little bit because of studies and stuff, but then I picked it back up like when I started. So then I started training a lot with Ben and Lee.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I picked up again, because I'd stopped for a little bit and then it was training again. It was like fitness, like that was actually quite full on. I think in year 8 and 9, I was like full on training again. And then I think year 10 and year 11 is when I started getting some bad injuries. And then that's when it like fully started going down for me.
Yeah.
And then after that, it was pretty much just trying to fight myself with these injuries. And then
You
that
lose
was
so much momentum.
Yes, exactly. And then after that, it was a bit too much for me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, what sort of injuries were they?
Yeah, so I think we'd just moved to Peak. So I think year 10, we'd moved from Paynham with Ben and Lee to Peak. And I think we were playing Lavash and hit this ball and my shoulder completely popped out of the socket. And I dislocated it on a dry volley. And then I just remember screaming, and I remember Ben coming to me like, you're fine. Like, don't worry. Like, he's like looking at it and it's like not in my shoulder. And he's like, you're fine. Don't worry. Like, it's all good. Don't cry. And then I remember Mum driving me to the hospital and then them putting it back in place and all this. And then I was like, okay, like that was like a lot. And I think it was a few weeks. I think I gave it like 6 weeks or 7 or 8 weeks to recover. It was meant to be like 3 months or something. And I gave it like 8 weeks and I came back on court and I was like, oh, this is fine. Like, I'm so fine. And then kept hitting. And then a couple of weeks in again, happened again. And then at that point, my parents were like, just rest it. And then I gave it again. I gave it a couple months and then I came back and then happened again. And then I was like, okay, I kept convincing myself I was fine. I was like, there's nothing wrong with it. And then I think it was the Adelaide ITF. And me and Suki were playing doubles. I think it was second round or quarters or something. And then when we were playing doubles, in the middle of like, we were about to win the match. And then I think it was like 2 games away, popped out in the middle of the match. Physio came out and was like trying to put it into place, like this, that. And then they were like, you got to retire. Like, you can't continue the match. And I was like, we're so close. Like, we are so close. Like, and then I basically just stood on court. And as soon as Suki served, like, I think it was one more game and Suki had to serve. So she'd serve and I'd walk off court and she'd just play like singles for that last game just so we'd go through. And then we went through and then I don't think I played them. I don't know what happened after that. I think we either played and we lost or I didn't play or something in the next round. But I just knew we had to get through that match. And I remember our opponents, I can't remember who it was at the time, but they were like furious. They were like, no, like they were quite upset that we didn't just like retire and like walk away. But
no, I would have done the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. I've never actually heard of that happening, to be honest.
Yeah.
Of a doubles match where someone's out of action, you're literally playing a singles with the tram lines.
Yeah, no,
in
literally.
a real match.
Like, it wasn't like, I was being dramatic. I wasn't like off the court, but I did come off to give her enough space because I knew I was not useful and I couldn't even like lift.
Could you hit like a forehand or anything? Or
no, because it's my right shoulder. Okay. I can't even volley. Like, first of all, like anything above the shoulder, so smash, volley, like I physically can't. Like, forehand is like okay, but it's still not ideal.
Were there issues with the shoulder before this though? Like, was this something that you already had niggles with and then at some point it just got really weak in the joint that just kept happening, or what was going on there?
I think when I was younger, I did definitely have a few subluxations, which is like a partial dislocation, but I never realised it. That's when it just pops in and out by itself and you don't realise it. And I remember vividly remember it happening to me like a few times, but I thought it was nothing. I thought it was just like a loose joint or something. And then the more this dislocation and then more subluxation started happening to me, and then I realized, oh, like it has been happening a lot to me, but I just been ignoring it, thinking it's like, oh, nothing, like it's just a little, like, do you know what I mean, like a spasm or like a cramp or something. And I didn't know what it was, but then I realized that it's always kind of been there.
Yeah. So I guess if you look back, it's maybe the management of the body and the recovery that maybe let you down to stop you from going further, would you say? Is that a fair call? Or?
I think more than that, like we saw a couple of shoulder specialists. It's unfortunately all like some people are very like double jointed, like you hear about that thing, and I'm like one of those people where it's like a lot of my ligaments and like my tendons are very loose in my body. So you
Gotcha.
can't really stop that from happening. I guess you can, like there's ways to prevent it, but like one of those ways would be like not really playing tennis.
Sure.
So it's like those movements, you can't really like avoid it. And if I was doing those movements, especially repetitively so much every day, like it was yet to happen at some point, no matter what, is what I was told. So I guess
Probably something you got to pick up real early.
Yeah,
to
definitely.
then actually strengthen or do the right movements from a young age to make sure that like you treat it and actually get structurally stronger than what the normal person would be if they're double jointed or have issues like that.
And I think you definitely see that now in like Tennis Australia is trying to do that, where they do like body scans and things to like detect stuff in like kids early on. And I've been seeing a lot of stuff of that online as well. And I think that's definitely, you get like a whole scan of like all the like potential injuries you could be having in the future. And I think that could definitely at least give you a vision of what to avoid and what not to do.
For sure. I think the game has gone way more technical in that way, that like people are doing like the charting on growth and understanding kind of like what body type and then how you should train and what sort of player you should be based on kind of like your chart. I think it's getting like way more sciencey in that way.
Definitely.
How was your relationship to the game, and also did you have pressure from parents or anything like that? Because I know that's super common just across the board, especially when the journey gets pretty intense.
Mm-hmm. I think there's always like pressure like from your parents, no matter what, especially growing up in an Asian like background. Like they're putting in so much effort, and I think they're putting so much effort, we're putting in so much effort, and it's obviously very disappointing when you like win or you like, depending, even if you won a match and it wasn't to the performance you want, especially now with things like UTR, like it's so like even if you've won a good match, it's like, yeah, but your score like was like 7-6 7-6, like you basically lost, like you're giving them so many points or whatever. And I think it was definitely a pressure. And I think it was also like on top of pressure that I was put, it was a lot of pressure that I put on myself as well. And it's not just them, like I can't blame that. And you see it in all tennis parents, and it's only now that I've like kind of like reflected on it after like that whole like part of like that chapter's kind of like not, I wouldn't say coming to an end, but just like happened. Like it's, let me phrase this. It's like, oh, sorry. Let me think. I think, what was the question again? Like,
no, like how, like the role of the parents and your relationship and how it affects you and the pressure that you put on yourself. Is it, like, did it put like a strain on your relationship with your parents? Because I know like I had it with my dad, like it put a strain on my relationship with my dad. And it actually took quite a while after to reconcile that. It wasn't like a straight away, like we're good, when I like stopped the real intense tennis journey. Like it was, it wasn't easy.
No, I agree. I think we definitely had that. My mum was very like she didn't really watch my matches and stuff. She was very like just off court. And my dad was he was just very into it. Like, cause he was primarily like my coach, like for most of the time. Like even while we were like with Ben and stuff, like he coached me a lot. And it's very different when you have your parents coaching you as well. And there's a lot more pressure and I think it's also that thing where it's like, you don't want to listen to them because you don't think they're right. And it's like, oh, they haven't played tennis. Like, why should I be listening to them? And it's kind of almost that like that child, like that teenage behavior from me as well. It's like, oh, like they don't know, like why are they telling me? And you get annoyed. And then that obviously creates arguments as well, because it's like, oh, they're not. I think I'd been having this conversation with my parents actually recently. And it's like, I don't like back then, like, you'd tell me all this like stuff after I lost a match, or even if I won a match, like you do all this thing, but it's like, it's so different when you're on court. And it's like, they'd be like, oh, like you didn't hit that forehand properly, like how come? And it's like, I would have an argument like, oh, why didn't you go hit that forehand? Like you don't, like nobody understands. And even if someone else told me, like even if Suki told me, like I'd do the same thing. Like it's that kind of thing. And I think it's just that it was, I kind of guess it's just like no one really knew what was happening. And it's like, everyone just thinks that everyone is right. Everyone thinks that they're right. And it's, sorry, I'm not phrasing this properly, but it's like, it was definitely a lot of pressure. It was a lot of pressure, like, playing, and I think it was the same. It wasn't even that, like, you see other parents, like, as well acting the same way, and it's like so many of my opponents, like, their parents, like, going crazy on court, like, banging on the fence and stuff, and it's like, but why? And it's just so silly when I think about it now. It's like, it was so much on, like, a match. Like, it was just a match, and there was so much pressure on it. And I remember thinking at the time, I was like, when is this gonna, like, end? Like, is this always gonna be like this? Like, and I remember thinking, I was like, in 5 years, is this match gonna matter? Like, is everyone gonna be as stressed about this one? It was like the whole world was dependent on that one match, and I think it was just the mentality then, something like that.
Yeah, 100%. Do you think with having your dad as a coach, did that make it hard and clash, I guess, with Ben? And, like, because I noticed sometimes having a parent coach and then mixing in with, like, a main coach, how did they manage that? Did you, as a player, have, like, mixed messages? Did you get confused, kind of like knowing one person saying this, one person saying this? What are your thoughts on that? Because I think it can break down a bit as having, like, a parent coach mixed in with a main coach. What's your experience on it, and would you recommend it for others? Or
I think it definitely helps. I think my dad just would reinforce a lot of the stuff that Ben would say. He would just reinforce a lot of stuff he would say. And I think it's kind of, I would say it was very beneficial for me. It was definitely a bonus for me, because you're doing, like, 1, 2, 3, maybe privates a week. You're doing 3 lessons with Ben, and then who's feeding you for the rest of the week? Like, it's going to be my dad, like, reinforcing the same thing. Like, some people can't do, like, 7 privates a week. They can't do, like, 2 privates a day. Like, some people are doing that, and it's kind of like, I'd have a lesson with Ben, and then I'd go onto court again. Dad would feed again for an hour, and we'd do the same thing again, and it only makes you better.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes some parents don't do that. They just they literally leave it to just the coach. Yeah. And I think
they only pay
exactly
yeah
for that, and then you're not getting that extra. Like, it's the same thing. Like, it's literally straight after, like, we'd have a break and then go do it again. Like, and that reinforces it twice, because 1 hour of, like, hitting is not enough. Yeah. Like, of just, so I think it's definitely, I would see it as, like, a bonus. Like, I don't think I would have been able to do it without my parents at all. And same with and then, like I say, like, my mum wasn't really into, but she was out there as well picking up balls. Like, it's a whole family sport. It's not really like dad's feeding, mum's picking up balls, my sister's waiting, like, we're taking turns. Like, it's a whole, like, it's a team effort. And I think it's definitely, I would never say it's not a bonus. Like, it's definitely a positive. There's obviously aspects where it's like, obviously, because it's your parents, you don't really want to listen. And that's, I think that was, like, an argument we'd have. Dad would be like, oh, like, you were just listening to what Ben was saying, like, 10 minutes ago, and now I'm saying the same thing and you're not listening to me. But it's just, that's what kids do. And we just don't want to listen to our parents, and we'll listen to anyone else who's willing to say the same thing they're saying. And I think that was definitely just an argument we'd always have about tennis.
I kind of wish that more parents actually went out on court and fed. Like, it used to happen a lot more, and now I'm just seeing it less and less. And I just think so many kids are losing out on just, like, critical reps. And just time to get better, and it's always been outsourced to, like, a time in the day or a certain squad or a time with a private coach, and it could be done just with dad or anyone, just feeding some balls and getting out there and practicing some serves. And I think it's something that we've actually lost in a way. One thing that you said before is like not listening to your dad. Do you think, though, as a player, and you feeling those emotions and the pressure, right? Like, it's very real, and it's tough when you're actually out there to execute, and it's very easy from the sidelines to say, like, why didn't you do this? But do you think is it hard that maybe, like, they never played, or, like, my dad never played, and is it hard for them to kind of, like, maybe connect with the player because they've never really experienced of what it is like to face the moments that you face as a tennis player versus maybe a tennis parent that has experienced the game? Do you think there's kind of like is that like a benefit, or is that something that you think is more challenging as your dad or my dad that never played?
I think it's definitely I think they just want the best for you, but they truly don't actually understand on court what it feels like to be in like a tiebreak. You're like 6-all, and then it's so easy to like lose that tiebreak 8-6 and then come off court and they're like, oh, you always double fault on like 6-all, or like always miss the forehand on like 6-all. But nobody, if you don't play the sport and you're not standing there serving in that moment, you don't know what the pressure is like in that moment. And I remember it's so easy from the sidelines, and it's so stressful from the sidelines as well. So, because I also understand their point of view, like, because towards when I stopped playing for a little bit because of my shoulder, I'd always be out at tournaments watching Suki. And I remember acting the same way my parents would act, like on the sidelines, like, oh my gosh, Suki, what do you like focus, like that type of behavior. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm acting like all these tennis parents are acting, like I'm literally, and you feel, so I kind of see both perspectives, but it's definitely, if you don't play tennis, I don't think you really understand truly, or even like a competitive sport in general. Like, I don't think you truly understand what it's like on court and in that moment, or like hitting. And I still see it now because I'm always out on court still, like watching, coaching, and I still see it to this day. And I'm watching like all these parents do the same thing. They're like, oh, how are you not hitting that forehand? How are you not hitting that backhand? Like, come on, more energy, like this, that. But it's so easy to say when you're out there just picking up the balls for your daughter or your son. Like, you're just picking up the balls for them, and then you're on the sideline, you're like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe you didn't hit that. Like, what am I paying all this money for? Like, you're going to quit, like this, that. Like, you're feeding them negative energy. You're like, they can't do, like, how are they actually, if you're standing there picking up the balls and telling them that they're not good enough, how are they actually going to get better? And I think as much as like my parents put pressure on me, they were never, it was never negative pressure. I don't know how to like differentiate it. It was always like, you can do better. It was never like, oh, like you suck. Like you're not, you're like, you can't even run to the ball. You can't do this. Like, it was always like, come on, like work harder. Like, you can do this. Like, do better. Like, come on, like let's wake up at 5 a.m. Let's train harder. Like, it was always like positive, like reinforcement. It was never really negative. And I see a lot of negative as well. Like, I definitely see positive like reinforcement around, but there's a lot of negative, like you can't do this, that I see like now when I'm out on court. And I think that kind of makes me, even though I'm not competing anymore, it kind of makes me ill to go and see that, because it's like, how are they meant to compete? Like, they can't. It's tough.
Yeah, it's an emotional roller coaster. Even as a coach, like watching matches with some of your players, it's like you don't, like I feel those things and I can feel myself squirm and want to react, but you just can't, and I have to just have this poker face and just be supportive. But I can feel like the dad in me just wanting to just lose it as well. But it's just like you never want to show that to your player, and you just always want to just try to like give them the positive reinforcement and give them the rev up at the right time and just get them pumped for the right points. But it's not easy. You have to put those emotions aside and just... Yeah. But when it's your own kid, like you can see just like so much investment, it would be so easy just to lose it.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. So obviously injuries, all of that, like it would have been challenging. How was that for you emotionally? Like, did you miss the game a lot? Like, were you struggling without having that because it was such a huge part of your life? And then I guess, where did you start to put your energy when you couldn't actually put it on court?
I think it was still, because I was still like, I was on and off for a long time. I wasn't ever like not playing, and it was still like, it was like a couple months on, couple months off, like for a long time. And it was during that time where I was like, obviously, I think at one point you know whether you're going to go pro or not. Like deep down you know. And I think I realized that around probably year 7, year 8, I was like, I'm definitely not, I want to go college. I want to go to college. Like, that's my goal now. And I think you definitely, like, deep down, you know, at some point you realize, and I'm like, I definitely want to go to college and I want to study and I want to play. So that was my goal after that. Once I started high school, I was like, it's just college. I need to go get into a good college. So that's what I was training really hard for in year 8, year 9, and then year 10. And then obviously in year 10 or year 11, that's when I started having like these injuries. And then it was tough because I was working with Sue to look for a college. And during that time, so I'd signed with her. And then during all that, that's when I was having these shoulder injuries. And it was like back and forth, like even with coaches, like it was that conversation. It's like, look, like I'm playing well like when I'm on court, but a lot of the time like I'm having these injuries and like this is happening and stuff. And I think I was lucky enough to get a few, like I got a couple Div 1 and Div 2 full rides offers, and it was just, this is a bit like later on, but I think my life kind of changed around to the point where it was like, this injury was too much for me. And I'd gone to a point where it was like, I went to the doctor after one last like dislocation, and they'd told me that I had to get like a shoulder reconstruction. It'd gotten too bad to the point where I had to like, I definitely, if I wanted it healed, I'd have to, but I was 17 at the time and I had to wait until I was 18 to get it completely, like to get the surgery done. But if I got the surgery done, according to the specialist, that I wouldn't play tennis like ever again. Like wouldn't be able to pick up a racket, wouldn't be able to play. And to what extent that was true, I don't know. But I didn't do the surgery because my parents said, how about you just don't play tennis anymore? Like would rather you not take the surgery and just like, because I was fine. Like after that, they were like, would rather you not have the surgery and just like take it easy, like not compete anymore. We just don't want, because there's obviously risks associated with the surgery, and they didn't want that for me. So they were like, we'll just see how it goes. And then when we had that conversation with the doctor, it was like, what happens with college now? Like what happens with college? Like, do I play? Like, if I go there, am I going to be benched? Like I was like, what do I do? And I was like, I've got so many, like I've got good offers. It's not like, and my parents are like, this is what I kind of worked for like my whole life. And I just have to give that up. Like all of a sudden, like a full ride is like, that's like a lot of money. Like that's a lot. Like if I'm staying here, I'm paying for my entire school fees, like until I finish. But there I'm playing tennis and I'm getting everything, accommodation, food, everything. Yep. So it's like, what do I do? And it was that really pinnacle point where it's like, it took like, I think it was 6 months of like conversations with Sue and like back and forth. Like I couldn't with the coaches, like, and eventually my life started changing into like comedy, which is what we were talking about. But that kind of made that whole decision a bit easier. And it was like, I had something here, and that made it easier it was probably the toughest decision I'd ever made in my life. Like I think it was almost, even at the end of year 12, even when I knew I wasn't competing as much, my offer was still there. Like the coach really wanted me, and I was like, it was just so tough. And I waited I remember till like the last second, like the day before enrollment like closed, to like message the coach and be like, look, I don't think I can play. And it was really tough. And like now it's just, I haven't thought about that in a while, because it took me a long time to like come to terms with it. And I think I feel like I was really upset. It was so much anxiety about this whole situation. And even my parents are the only ones who know like how much stress I went through this whole thing. But eventually I think I made the right decision, and I'm happy with what I did, but it was very tough. Yeah.
That would have been hard, especially when you've given your whole life to the sport.
Yeah.
And you have that offer, and it's like right there. Man, that would have been really tough. I can see why it took so long for you to make that decision, and wrestling with that. Where were you thinking of going? Like, where was actually the offers, and where would you have gone?
Well, there was a couple I had one because my comedy, I just started comedy around, so just before I started year 12. So around when I started getting the injuries, I just picked up comedy. And so that had been happening. And so we were looking at the same time with Sue, we were working with Sue to try and get a good college where I could pursue comedy as well. So there was a couple in Chicago, which I really liked. And then there was one in Minnesota. That was a school I think I was deciding to go, was Bemidji University. That was, because even though I had full rides to a couple of Div 1 schools, it was this Div school that kind of like called out, like I really liked it. And I know some people were like, oh, like, but how can you pass up on a Div 1 school? But it wasn't really, it was like the location and like the offer, like the thing I wanted to study as well, like economics, like it was good in that school and stuff like that. And at the same time here in Adelaide, I had been given an offer to work at ABC at the BTN. And that was also a pinnacle time, because I was like, do I take that job? Do I go to college? Like if I go to college, I won't get the job here. like, I won't be able to pursue comedy here anymore. And luckily that coach was so lovely, the one in Minnesota, and he'd already organised like me to have like a news reporting job in Minnesota at the same time while I was playing tennis.
That's
like
crazy.
Yeah. He just really wanted me to come over, and me and my dad had been talking to the coach, and we'd been telling him how I had offers here and I had other opportunities here, and it's really tough right now on whether I go there or go here. And he was so lovely, and he set up this whole thing for me. So I was like, this is like, I'd love to go to that school if I can like do all this other stuff as well. But it was just, I couldn't compete. Like, it was too tough for me to compete. I remember there was a point where I was playing state league I think in year 12, just before college, I was playing state league, and I had to underarm serve like my entire singles and doubles. And I remember people sitting on the sideline like, oh my gosh, like, she thinks she's Nick Kyrgios. Like, who does she think she is? Like, oh my gosh, she thinks she's so funny. Like, she thinks she's Nick Kyrgios. But nobody knew that I physically could not even lift my arm above, like, but I needed to compete, like, because the coaches wanted to see, like, match results. They wanted to see how I was competing within the last year. And I had to play these matches, but I couldn't serve. I couldn't serve for, like, nearly a year, like, all of year 12. And I was still trying to think about whether I go to college. But I think people were judging so much, and that got me scared. It was like, I'm not even good enough for this. Like, and it was so hard. And I remember that vividly, playing state league and everyone making fun of me for underarm serving, but nobody actually knows like what you're going. And I remember shaking hands with someone, and they're like, oh yeah, nice match, Nick Kyrgios, like after the match, which is like, why would I willingly underarm serve the entire match? Like, it's not, but yeah, things like that would just, I think if there was a lot of, mentally, I was not in a good space in year 12, but just because so many things.
Wild. How did you even get into comedy? Like, what started that? Was that something that you always enjoyed? Like, what kind of led you to actually start getting into it?
I never really, I loved comedy. Me and mum were always obsessed with comedy, and because the trip to school was about 45 minutes every day, we'd always listen to stand-up, but I never would have imagined, like, doing it. Like, it was too scary to me. And then I think at the end of year 11, I did a school captain speech, and I wrote it just before, like, I wasn't planning on doing it. One of my friends, like, pressured me into it, and then I literally wrote something in math, the class before, and I went up and I did it. And I made, like, everyone laugh. Like, I didn't even do a proper speech. I was just, like, basically a stand-up act. And everyone loved it. And I was like, okay, if I can make, like, year 11s and 12s laugh, like, that's a hard demographic. Like, like maybe I could try something. And I thought that, but I never was going to do anything about it.
What was the premise that actually made everyone laugh? Like, what was it, I guess, the structure or how you spoke about that made everyone crack up?
I was pretty cheeky. I was just making fun of the teachers. Like, it was basically just like inside jokes about teachers and things. And then, yeah, that was basically it. And then I talked a bit about tennis and stuff like that, because it's obviously, I went to Marriottville, which is a tennis school, so a bit about that. But it wasn't really anything like, I literally said, like, I have no experience in, like, leadership or, like, anything. I'm just, like, I coach kids and stuff, and, like, I just talked about that and, like, the kids I coach and stuff. And it's, like, if I can coach these kids, I'm sure I can coach, like you guys, like, that kind of premise. And then just making fun of, like, teachers and stuff. And, yeah, and then I'd posted that speech online, and it got over 1 million views. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then I think my drama teacher the next year, or the end of that year, sent me a link to Class Clowns, which is like a kids like comedy competition. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll enter. And I just entered it as a joke. And then the following year I was like, oh, because I had that tennis mentality where I wanted to win. Like, I saw it was like this Class Clowns, like kids comedy competition, but I'm like, oh, I got to win it. Like, I can't just go there just to like perform. I got to win it. So I entered a competition before that called Raw Comedy. That's like Australia's biggest open mic competition. And I entered it just to get stage time to win the kids competition. Like, I wasn't entering it to win that comp. And I entered it and I won, and I went to the state final for that one, for the adult version. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is so good. And then when I lost in the state final, I was devastated. Like, this is my first time doing comedy though. It's like, even though I made the state final, like, how many years did it take me in tennis to make the state final or something? Like, years. Yeah. But I made it first go in this competition, Australia's biggest open mic competition. And then I was devastated. Like, I remember crying and like it was like the end of the world. And it was that tennis mentality. Like, I couldn't lose. Like, it was sucked because I lost. And I remember after that, I was like, I don't even want to do like the kids one, like the class clowns one. This is ridiculous. And I remember then I think it was a week or two later, I did the kids one. And when I did it, I went on stage, and I'll never forget this. I completely blanked. Like,
oh wow,
completely blanked.
In the kids one. And
I was like, because I'd seen the competition, not to be like full of myself, but I was like, I can win this. Like, I was like I can definitely win this. And then again, that's like that tennis mentality. Like, when you look at a draw and you're like, you can win. Yeah, exactly. When you're number one seed. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh, I'm 100% number one seed. Like, none of these people have done the competition before. I'm literally the first seed. And then because of that, I went on stage and I said one joke and it didn't land, the first joke I did. And I blanked. I completely blanked. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I can't explain. Like, this is again.
So it's a pure bomb.
No. I'm not there yet. It wasn't a bomb. But like, I got to the point where I completely forgot what I was going to say and then just blanked. And I can't explain the feeling, but it's like you're sinking and you're like dying in a hole. When you're on stage in front of that many people and you have nothing to say, it's like you're like, where am I? And somehow I picked up again, and then I finished my set and it went fantastic. Like, it went so good. Like, best time I probably like delivered the rest of that set like ever. And then I won that competition. Like, it was nice. It was insane. It was insane. I think I'm really grateful to the producers or the judges or whoever that day, because they obviously saw the potential. And if they'd just gone through, I remember after I did that performance, so I came off and I was like crying again because I was like, I've lost because I've stuffed that up. But then, went to Melbourne for that and then did the grand finals. And then again, so that's the national grand final. So within my first month of comedy, I'm like in the biggest comedy festival in the world, like one of the biggest comedy festivals in the world, competing in the national grand final, which took me in tennis like 4 or 5 years. And then, and then I think I came runner up, or I got special mention or something, and I lost in that. And that was my point where I was like, oh, I'm done with comedy, because it's like, I'm not good at it. Obviously, the judges don't think I'm good enough to be at a national level. I'm not good at this. And I didn't gig for like months and months after that. Yeah.
Why did you go into that mindset when you did like amazingly well in such a short time? Why did you go straight into like, I suck, when you clearly didn't?
That's the thing. That's what I think. It's just that winning, like, because I'd played so much tennis, like, it was like, if I didn't win, I wasn't good enough. Like, I was obviously not at the level these people were at or whatever. And I was like, if I'm not good now, I never will be. Like, and it was also that thing where it's like, it took me so long to get to like a certain level in tennis. Like, who am I to think that I can do that in comedy like now? Like, just to start out of nowhere and be like decent at it. Like, that's not possible. Like, how is that possible? And yeah, I remember it was just, for me, like, there's videos, like, me and my dad went over from Melbourne, and I was like, this is like the end of, that was, you know what's crazy as well about going to Melbourne that time? That was my first time going to Melbourne with no rackets. And It was a crazy feeling. Like, I remember getting on the plane and I was like, oh, there's something missing. Like, I don't have something with me. And I remember that was one of my first feelings. And I was like, this is so crazy. Like, I just go to Melbourne with like nothing. But yeah, that's pretty wild.
That's wild. No, it's interesting you talk about the mindset of just like looking at it so much from a tennis lens. Like, while you're doing comedy, it's like, if I don't win, I must be bad. And just thinking that it's going to take a long time to get to a high level. And like, I guess there's some things that you can do at a high level quickly. And then obviously there's a lot of learning and structure around writing your act and writing material. So from there, where you didn't perform for a few months, what were you doing? Were you writing jokes? Like, were you just leaving it to the side completely? How did you get the ball rolling again?
I was still in year 12 during the time. Okay. So it was mostly like, my parents were like, just focus on year 12 for now. And I agreed. I was like, oh, I don't really have time. And I was still very new to the comedy scene. So I also didn't know where I would gig, or like where, like where I was meant to go to like perform and stuff. Cause I was still very new.
Especially in Adelaide, there's no real scene here.
No, like, there isn't.
There's only Rhino Room. Open mics, right?
One open mic.
A week?
That's like, it.
On a Friday or Saturday?
On a Monday night.
Monday night?
Yeah.
Rhino Room Monday night every week. That's all there is for an open mic.
Open mic, yeah. That's
and
the
like
only
how many
one.
people go?
Look, it's like there can be like 7, 8 on lineup, and then the people who watch is like comedians as well. So you don't really get much out of it. Like it's just comedians judging comedians and like comedians on stage, and it's not really because it's a Monday night. No one's really coming out.
Yeah.
Like so it's tough, and that's the problem in Adelaide. Like there is, like you said, there's comedy scene. There's no comedy scene. And that's why
tough. Like, how do you get better? Like, you need a spa, right?
You can't. That's why comedians in Adelaide or in like Perth and like in those kind of like regions like have to region called Adelaide a region.
It is a region.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's acceptable.
Like we got to maximize like when Adelaide Fringe comes around or like Melbourne Comedy Festival. Like when you go over, like I like just now within like 2 weeks, I've done like 26 gigs, which is like more than I would in an entire year if I was just like in Adelaide gigging.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
So it's like full on for like a period of time in Adelaide, and then it's like nothing.
Yeah, huge period of growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your style? Like, there's obviously different styles of comedy. Like, are you kind of nailing in? Are you starting to become a lot more kind of clear on how you are performing and what sort of jokes, what sort of style of comedy, how you deliver your punchline, how you set it up? Is that something that you are naturally finding, or what's it like?
I think I definitely already like kind of know, like I definitely do observational comedy. So it's like what happens like around me and stuff. I've been trying to get into PowerPoint comedy recently, and that's been a lot of fun for me, especially with like doing uni at the same time. Like it's like that juxtaposition of like doing like uni PowerPoints and then doing like this type of PowerPoint. Like I really like just like zoom it, like all these types of like technical things with PowerPoint. I think it's so much easier to like show a punchline than like having to explain it in stand-up, and it's so much quicker and it's snappier, and that's what I like about PowerPoint.
Do you think that's almost like a little bit of a safety net in a way? Like, do you have to be at like an elite level to set up your jokes without anything and make people laugh consistently?
I think I think both ways is tough. Like some people can't nail PowerPoint. Like they'll bring up a PowerPoint and then it's just like horrible. Like they can't, like they're trying. But then it's the same in like stand-up, because I still do more stand-up than I do PowerPoint, like just pure stand-up. And I think you're definitely right. Like it's a lot harder because you need to be able to engage them. Like they don't have something to look at. Like they're looking at you, and if you bore them, like that's it. Like you're done. And I think you're very vulnerable on stage. You're so vulnerable. It's like you're literally there to make them laugh, and if they don't laugh, like, who are you to be there? Like it's a lot to like take in.
100%. Like I've listened to so many people on podcasts, and I listen to a lot of comedians just talk about it and talk about bombing being one of the worst feelings you could ever experience. Have you had a full on bomb yet? I other than that class clowns thing at the start, and it wasn't really a bomb, like because I picked myself up. Like a bomb is like if you completely silence crickets.
Yeah, silent crickets. I don't think I've ever had, like I've been very touch wood, like never happened yet for me. I think it's still obviously there's nights, and I think that's where I'm very like I'm too hard on myself sometimes, where it's like obviously comedy is just like so up and down, and like I've experienced that especially in that last week where I did my solo show and then I did heaps of spots, and it's like one day like my solo will be like so good, like it like the whole hour was fantastic, and then I'll go do like a 10-minute spot for like another show, and then it doesn't go as well, but that ruins your like entire night. Like it's not like it's gone bad, like they've laughed at everything, but it's not as loud as you want. And it's like it's so subjective as well, like to yourself, like did I hear more laugh, did I hear, like you're just so hard on yourself,
and everyone else has a different sense of humor as well,
exactly, right?
Super interesting. What was the experience like at the Fringe for you? Like you did your first solo show, you did other shows. Like tell us about that whole experience and how it went down.
I think I was really scared because I'd never done more than 10 minutes. Like I'd been doing a lot of spots. Like last year I did do Adelaide Fringe. I did Brown Women Comedy, but that was a lineup show. And this time I really didn't, and this is what I talk about in my show Happy. I talk about how I didn't want to do the show, like, But the only reason I did it was because I'm 19 and it's like, it looks good when it's like, 19-year-old Kushi. Like, if it says 20, you look so old, like, to me. So I'm like, oh, I got to, like, it's now or, like, never.
Yeah.
Was the reason why I did the show in the end. And it's like, I did that. And a genuine concern I had, and because I procrastinate so much, like, I can't write. Like, I struggle a lot with writing, and it takes me to the last minute. So like a week before I was like writing and like trying to like finish my PowerPoint and all that. And obviously we have like preview nights where it's like, you're just testing stuff, and like judges can't really come to those preview nights. Like they can, but they can't really they have to judge the potential of the show. Like there's this whole thing. It's been they have to judge the potential of the show in a preview night, because that's where I'm testing, because no one else has seen this material before. It's brand new. And I think in the preview nights, everyone was really able to like fine tune my show. And then for the actual nights of the show, it actually went really well. And I wasn't expecting. A genuine concern I had was like, would I be able to stand for an hour? Like, I know I've played matches for like 3 hours before, like, but am I going to be able to stand and talk to people for like an hour? But it feels, when you're on stage, it literally feels like 5 minutes, like not even. And yeah, it was just so much fun.
Yeah. Were there any highlights in your set? Like you think like kind of consistent big laughs on a certain premise or a certain setup?
Yeah.
With the punchline?
I was really happy with my final joke, like of each, because that's always like, you want to start your show with like your second strongest joke, and you want to finish on your strongest joke. And I think I really nailed that section of like that rule of comedy. And I think I started really strong, and then the end was really good. But yeah, I think that's something that I still need to, there's still obviously changes that I need to make before I go to Melbourne, and I'm working on that this week. But I think that is definitely a lot of fun.
Yeah, what are you learning from like a structure point of view of how to actually be a stand-up? Like how to actually structure your act, how to, I guess, do your writing better? Is there stuff you're learning just from being with other comedians?
Yeah.
Like what are some of the things that like normal people wouldn't actually understand about how to actually write jokes or how to set it up in a way that actually flows?
I think that's the thing with comedy. Like anyone can do it. Like it's not really like someone won't understand. Like everyone's style is so different. Like, and especially you see that definitely at the Adelaide Fringe, because there's so many different comedy acts, but it's like there's so many different versions. Like there's sketch, like there's stand-up, there's PowerPoint, there's like so many different versions, and there's like theatre, like there's all sorts of comedy. And I think I've been lucky enough to work with a lot of like famous comedians like within like my first year of comedy, and I think they've really helped me like find like my style. And recently, like last week, actually during the last week of Fringe, I met David Krayos. He's like really big comedian in New Zealand, and he was on Taskmaster there and everything. And I think I really like, it was so weird, but like we're like twins, like we're literally like the same person. And like this is the first time I found someone with like the same comedy style as me. And I think it was really cool to see, because then obviously now, like, I think I've been lucky because I've had lots of mentors in comedy, which didn't really, like, it's different in tennis where it was like, you didn't, like, it was so competitive where it's like, everyone was like your enemy kind of thing. Like, it sounds bad, but it's like, everyone like didn't like each other. Like I saw an episode before, like on the pod, where it's like, people don't want to go out and play matches against each other. Like they don't want to go out and play matches against each other. But here it's like, it's so different, the environment, where it's like you're up, like you're lifting everyone up. Like you're trying to like get other people better. You're trying to give them, like after a show, you're like, oh, like, mate, like you can improve this and the joke would be better. Like, oh, how about we change this and your joke could be so good. Like here, I'm going to send people, like plugging people's show at the end of the show. Like end of my show, I'm like, oh, go see this person, this person, this person, go support them. Like, it's different where it's like, here it's like, oh, we're in tennis, it's like, oh, where's this person like, oh, don't play matches with them, your UTR is going to go down, like don't do this. It's not like I think it was a real change, because it's such a positive, and I'm not saying tennis is a negative environment at all, but it was just such a change for me, because everyone is so like uplifting and like so like genuinely like want the best for you, which was really actually nice. And it helped me a lot. Like even when I see these big comedians, like they come up to me and they talk to me like I'm like the same as them, and it's so like like people are just so humble, and it's really like, it's such a, it feels like a safe environment, even if I'm in a bar underage, like even if I'm 17 and I'm in a bar and it's like all old, like it still feels kind of like safe. And it was hard to explain to my parents, but it's like, I think they understand as well now, like how the comedy like scene is in Australia.
Yeah, nice. My one of the questions I had like before is kind of what you just alluded to, is what is it like when you're actually in some of these environments? Like, I guess comedians have a reputation of getting on it, having big nights, and getting rowdy after they're done, and being a bit loose. Have you had any kind of experience? Is it being in the scene with some of these other guys? Is that actually true of your experience? What's it like?
I'm not gonna lie here, like so they always have like an artist bar, so that's where like all the artists like go to be like, to get like drunk or whatever after like the show, after their show's done. But like, I'm not gonna lie, I've been like pretty scared, and I don't like go to them because I'm like scared. But I went a lot in Melbourne last year when I went because I stayed with Sashi, this other comedian, and we'd always like hang out there. But it's not as bad as you think. Like, it's like, I think even though, because everyone's still working and they know that, like, this is still like networking, this is working. So people are still, more than getting like, like rowdy and stuff, it's more like they're like smart, like they're trying to network, they're trying to build connections. Like, it's like a social event almost.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a social event. And I think this is another misconception, like comedians are always like drinking on stage, and they're like, because it's obviously in a bar and it's always late, it's like 7, like, or 8, 9, like you can meet anywhere from like 7 to like 12 o'clock, like any night. But most comedians don't drink on stage. Like, a few do. Obviously there's some that can't really do it without it, but I think a lot of like that I've looked up to, like obviously they're different because they don't drink on stage. They're like genuinely, because they're working. It's a job. It's like another job. It's your job.
You got to perform as
exactly.
well at the highest level. Yeah.
Exactly. But then again, like I understand some people, they've started comedy with like, they can't get on stage without that safety net.
It's a serious problem though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It is. It's like you shouldn't really be doing comedy then, like if it's not really, but like I can't really judge, like
each their own, but yeah, at some point
exactly.
the cracks are just going to get wider and wider.
For sure.
Yeah. What was it like for your parents though? Like, like seeing this change and you being now in the comedy scene, and do they have concerns? Are they supportive? How has their perception changed? Obviously with success and evidence of proof of concept, right? There's a little bit more support, I guess.
Yeah, no. I think at the start they were a bit like iffy about it. My mum was really supportive straight away because because like I said, we were real big fans of stand-up comedy, and she was really supportive when I started when I was 17. And she took me, but she chaperoned me like to every bar because I couldn't even get into the bar. Like, I was 17, like they wouldn't even let me. So mum would have to come to all these gigs all the time. But then the only, like, you don't get paid for anything. The only way you get paid is through free drinks, which I can't even drink. So it's like, mum's like, like, what, like, you're in year 12, like, what is this? Like, for a little bit, she's like, I don't know, like, you're not, like, there's nothing here. And I think what changed there might, and it was same with my dad, like, he was really supportive about it as well. But then once we got to, I think it was in Melbourne, after Melbourne, when we got back, he was like, how about we just like stick to studies for now? Like, let's stick to like getting into college and like focusing on college right now. And I agreed as well. I was like, we're like, that's fine. But I think I did a couple of gigs here afterwards, and I was like, oh, this is fun. And I think it took my parents a minute to be like, oh yeah, like they never told me not to do it. Not one time did they tell me not to do it. But I think they were very proud that I was able to go on, because they understand, they're like, it's not easy. Like, mum was really scared. She was like, I'm feeling the same pressure like I used to do, like driving you to your matches. Like, I feel that when I'm sitting there getting ready to watch you. Like, it's the same. Like, I'm worried, but it's like, I know you're doing something like not everyone can do. Not everyone can go on a stage and talk to like 700, 800 people. Like, it's tough. And I think they're very supportive about it now. Yeah.
That's elite.
Yeah.
That's so good. It's important. You got to get that support, and sometimes it takes a bit of time, but it's nice that they're on board, and I think it just would make it easier for you.
Yeah.
Is it in a way? Is it? Will you clutch as a tennis player? Because to be on stage and do stand up in front of a lot of people and be vulnerable like that, you kind of got to be like clutch in a way. So would you say that you were clutch?
What do you mean by clutch?
Like when it comes down to big moments, like you would stand up and perform.
Yeah. You know,
like, were you a big point player?
I was a big point player, especially like always tie breaks. Like at tie breaks, it was like, yeah, I would like clutch up actually. And I think at some point, you know, what changed for me is I remember like one match in Seaside in like 14s or something. I said my first come on. I was always a quiet, like never said come on, like was never like said anything. And I think in 14 under or end of 12s or something, I said come on in my first match. And that changed everything for me. Like that's when I turned into like an aggressive player. Like all of a sudden I was just like lollipop, like baseline and just like get the ball in. And the moment I said come on, like I was like, oh, if I take a risk and then say come on, like after I win the point, like this is huge. Like their mind is like off. And I said it to the point where I was like, I'm not going to lie, I was a pretty annoying player like at one point, but it helped me. And I definitely improved a lot. And yeah, it changed my game style completely. And I think that's what kind of, because I was a very shy kid, introverted, didn't talk to anyone. And it was literally like, now that I think about it, like it was a pinnacle like point.
That flipped it for you.
Flipped it, saying come on out loud. Yeah.
That's crazy. Maybe that's the problem. Too many people are letting out their come ons too early. You just need to save them to the 14s and then you're good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Damn. We've been doing it wrong.
No, save it. And then
What would happen if we saved it like 16s or 18s?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it'd be too late then.
That's true. Maybe 14s is a sweet spot.
14s is a sweet spot. Yeah.
Damn, imagine if you didn't get those injuries.
No.
But then you wouldn't be doing stand-up either.
No,
so there's
exactly.
always the sliding doors in life, right? One door closes, another one opens.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's so cool. So where to from here? Like, are you going to Melbourne? So what's that involve? So this is for the Melbourne Comedy Festival?
Yeah, Melbourne Comedy Festival. Yeah, it's the biggest comedy festival in Australia. Yeah. But yeah, I'm not doing my solo this year. I'm gonna save it and do it next year. I didn't want to do it this year. It was too much to organise and stuff. But I'm doing a split show with another girl that did Class Clowns with me. And then so I'm doing that with Pilot, and then doing a bunch of shows. Like you saw my PowerPoint show, so I'm doing that there. And then I'm doing a couple with Starship Prayer, just like spots and things, shows around. Yeah.
What sort of length set?
So I'm doing half an hour and then the rest are like 10, 15. Yeah. Nice. All over the place. Yeah.
Is it a bit more punchy at like 10, 15?
Yeah. You got to be tight. Like you have 10 minutes to press them to like get them to like follow you to come to your shows. Like you have 10 minutes and you don't want to really waste like a second. So you put your best jokes in to like 10, like you tighten everything. So my hour I would tighten into like 10 minutes and then just present that.
Nice. And how do you practice? Like, how do you do it? Like in the car, or do you actually present it to people? Like, what do you do to actually get that nice and tight?
I'm actually really bad, but I don't practice. Like I said, I don't go to like open mics or things to like test stuff, and I don't really like showing it to my parents or anyone. Like I like them seeing it like just on stage. Like I'm happy for them to see it on stage. I normally work a lot with my sister, like on writing and stuff. Like we work together a lot on that, but yeah, I'm really bad. Like I go on stage and then sometimes like my solo show, I didn't rehearse it one time and I just went on and like did it. Like I just need to go there and do it. Like sometimes it just comes to you, and then, but after you've done it a couple of times, after that, you get the hang of it. And then I would just record, watch it, rewatch it, and then just tweak things each night and then just keep changing it.
Nice. So from watching it a few times, what do you feel like you need to change?
Yeah, well, the thing is, first of all, trying to get yourself to watch it is tough. Like the next day, especially if you know you haven't done as good as you wanted to, like just like trying to click play, like, and you get sick of your voice. Like I'm so sick of my voice. And then I'm like, you got it. Like if you want to get better, you got to. And then you just kind of like mark out the points where it's like the laugh was like, what did I change? Like what was different from this night to like a night where I did really well? Like what's the difference? And you kind of just like pick out, it's like kind of like match analysis. Like you're like, oh yeah, so this and then this, and you try to like pinpoint, and then you just like tweak punchlines and things. Yeah,
nice. What's transferable from tennis? Like how do you think tennis has actually helped you to do well in stand-up?
I think it was definitely like what I was saying before, like that come on moment. Like I was really introverted, like didn't like talking to anyone. All of a sudden I was like able to like, and I also was like, I stood up for myself a lot more after that come on thing. I'd be like, if someone called a ball out or something and it's like I didn't agree, like, or something, I'd normally just leave it. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. But now it's like, I was really firm with my calls too. If they're like, oh God, like that was in, like what are you talking about, that was in, and I'd be like, no, I'd be like, no, that's out, like that's out. But like before I'd be like, actually no, yeah, you're right, like you take the point, even though I know it's out, like. And I think it was that bravery, like that courage that I got from tennis really was so transferable into my comedy. Like I wouldn't be brave enough. Like I wouldn't be able to stand up for myself. Like in the green room, if someone said something to me, or like if someone heckled at me, like it's the same kind of thing if I'm like on court and someone's like telling me that the ball was in or like the ball was out and like a parent's like yelling at you. It's the same situation if I'm on stage and someone yells at me from the crowd saying something else. It's like, you know how to deal with it. It's like, stop, like what are you doing? Like you're not involved in this situation. And I think a lot of that just comes down to like courage and like bravery, which I never would have had without tennis. Like I wouldn't be able to do comedy without tennis.
Yeah. There's so many life lessons in tennis, eh? Yeah. It's a very unique sport. And I think, there's a lot to take away in terms of resilience and the courage and the pressure that you face and being able to deal with adversity and come back. Yeah, no, I think you've been on the perfect pathway to actually excel in comedy now. Like it's sick. It's so sick. So I guess what's the goal? Like how do you plan to go about it from here after having a successful kind of time with Fringe? Is there something that you want to target? Are you wanting to potentially tour with your own show, or like how does it actually work?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to like my show I did this year at Fringe, Happy. I'm hoping to tour that next year, like around Australia. Maybe towards the end of this year as well, like start touring it. But like I really like the goal for me in comedy is to get on Taskmaster. Like it sounds so silly, but like
what's Taskmaster? Right?
It's like you don't know Taskmaster.
No,
oh no, Luke. it's a TV show where it's like comedians like get picked and they have to do like tasks. But it's like famous in like New Zealand and in like the UK. Like there's a lot of like different versions.
So there's not a version here?
No, there is. There is. But it's really famous in like New Zealand but it's really big here as well. But the goal is kind of like to be a comedian, like good enough to be on that show. Like that's the goal. So yeah.
Nice.
But like definitely to tour and like to do my own solo show would be amazing.
Yeah, sick. Love it. We got to get some time on that stage. And does that mean that you're going to go travel around Oz? Because it's just really just to do sets?
Oh, like not to do sets, but like I guess to do my like solo. Like I think it's really tough right now just juggling like work and with uni as well. It's like there's a lot going on. So it's just like every time something's on, like every time if I want to go to like another state to do something, it's like I have an exam here and it's like it's annoying. So I'm trying to get that balance right and like trying to like weave it into like my timetable, but it's just gotta do it.
I mean, you're starting early. So many comics start later, way later.
Yeah,
and
for
it usually takes quite a long time to actually get to where you are at right now. So I mean, you're flying. You're in a position where you at 19 years old basically having experience that people would have had doing like 5-6 years of comedy. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you're in a prime position. It's a great opportunity just to learn from so many people and just tighten up your act and just roll with it, really. There's no pressure on you at all.
No, I think that's what I felt like doing this Fringe show. I was like, if I'm doing it at 19, like it's like there's no pressure to be good, to be bad, like, but if I do good, it's like heightened because it's like, wow, she's 19, like she's already doing this. And I think that's what was really positive about doing my Fringe show, because it's like there was so much talk about me in Adelaide, like in the Fringe, like because it's like, oh, who is this 19-year-old selling out like all her shows, like who, like what's going on here? And you don't really like say I was like 23, like you wouldn't even get that talk if I was like 23. Like it's like, oh, some teenagers like selling out her shows, like this is crazy. Who is she?
Yeah, like you said, if you're doing it as a teen just before you turn 20, it's perfect.
It's so perfect. Like, oh, teenager, like this teenager, like it's cool.
100%. So good. Well, thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. You've absolutely crushed it, and it was good to see your show. The PowerPoint one, it was elite. So Hope Melbourne goes well. And
Yeah.
we're stoked for you.
Thank you so much. I had
Yeah,
so
just
much
keep
fun.
rolling with it. You're killing
Yeah,
it.
for sure.
Sick. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.